Hi, I'm Murphy from Mountainsong Expeditions, and in this video I'm going to talk to you about how to select arrows for your archery practice. So the most common kind of arrow that is sold these days is the carbon fiber arrow. This is a carbon fiber arrow that was actually painted to look like wood, but it is actually carbon. These are the lightest weight, the strongest, the least likely to bend. They're very durable, very good. And this is an example of a carbon arrow that is not painted to look like wood. They're often this dark color. And this arrow also has a broadhead tip. This tip has very razor sharp blades on it that are made for hunting. So it's illegal to hunt animals with just a normal target tip. You have to hunt with these broadhead tips. This arrow has vanes, which are solid plastic. This arrow has synthetic feathers, fletching. So they're actually a little more durable and they don't get bent as easily as the vanes. And it just has a little target or field tip. You can screw the tip out, screw another tip in if this one gets all dinged up, or if you want to put a broadhead in, they're very flexible in that way. So carbon arrows are the most common, but it used to be that the standard was aluminum arrows. This is an aluminum arrow right here. They're nice and weighty, they've got some good momentum to them. It can be good for hunting in that way. And they're pretty sturdy, but the problem is that they do tend to get bent. You know, if you shoot it and it like hits a tree, or you're trying to pull it out and you bend it because it's really stuck in something hard, it can be more prone to bending. It's not going to break, but it'll bend. So aluminum arrows can also be a good option if you have access to some of those. You can also get fiberglass arrows. These are lower quality, less preferable than the other two, but they also tend to be a little cheaper. And the carbon fiber arrows or the aluminum arrows are going to probably be at least $10 each. And you lose arrows when you practice archery. It's just something that's going to happen, especially if you do archery out in the woods. But even in a lawn, they tend to just go into the earth and not come up. So having a slightly more affordable arrow is really nice. And these fiberglass arrows are pretty durable. You can ding them around a lot. So I use these a lot for my programs where students are going to be more active. Like I run a running archery program where we will run a 5K and shoot at targets along the way. And we use these because they might get a little banged around and they might get lost, but they're durable and they're not too expensive. So that is the fiberglass arrow. You may also want to go the more traditional route and choose a cedar arrow. And these are pretty easy to make yourselves if you get a kit. They can sell you the fletching to glue on there, the knock point, and the tip to put on the end. Cedar arrows are, most similar to what was used in ancient times, and if you are doing archery with medieval reenactment folks, they usually require that you use cedar arrows for their games and competitions. They can fly really well. They can get a little warped, so you want to sort of test and see if they're completely balanced, and you can kind of flex them a little bit to unwarp them to some degree. You got to sort of take more careful care of them. And they are definitely the least durable. The most common thing to happen to them is that the point will just break off, like has happened with this one. Or sometimes, because of a flaw in the wood, you might have a split, like in this one. So this arrow, I think, hit a stone or something like that, and this target hit a stone, and it just split like that, so it's no longer safe to fire. The other kinds of arrows can also become unsafe at times. This is a safe one, but the carbon fiber arrows, you want to examine them before you shoot them every time and make sure that there is no separation. Up here, this arrow hit a rock, the knock point flew off, and the edges of the carbon started to separate, and so that's no longer a safe arrow to shoot. You only want to shoot it when it's totally intact. So you'll have to retire this arrow and use it for Halloween costumes or wall decorations, but not for actual shooting. And of course the fiberglass arrows can also potentially split if they're really abused and beat up. This one got very deeply buried into its stump that I was target practicing with and couldn't get it out without breaking the arrow off. So those are the options with arrows, and with the arrow tips, the field tips, and the broadhead tips. There's many types of broadhead tips, but we won't go into that too much here. You do also have a choice of style of quiver. I'm wearing a shoulder quiver, and this is what I use for both mounted archery on horseback and also running archery, where I'm running and then stopping to shoot along the way, kind of like a biathlon, because you can't really have something clanking around on your side. Some styles of horseback archery, they do have a quiver on the side, but I find that this is just more mobile. But you do have to get used to doing this motion and being able to knock your arrow that way. So it takes a little bit of getting used to. And then this is a side quiver. A lot of people use these days. So you just hook that on to your belt or your pants, and then you can draw the arrows out like this and knock them into your bow. It's a little bit easier. It is very good to have a quiver so that you can walk around and move around without the arrow points being exposed, because if you're walking around with your arrows like this and you fall, you could stab yourself in the foot, hit someone else, something like that. So if you don't have a quiver, you always want to hold your arrows like this when you're walking around. Hold them from the point so that if you fall, that point's not going to enter anything else. It's all contained and protected. And that is all I have to tell you about selecting your arrows today. So have fun, good luck. You can buy them online, you can go to your local pro shop. The one last thing is that the length of your arrows is very important. If you shoot arrows that are too short, you could really hurt yourself. You could shoot yourself in the wrist. So the way to test that is to put the arrow nock right about where your collarbone comes together. Reach your arms out and reach as far as you can, and you should have at least an inch to spare on the end of the arrow. Otherwise it's too short. So this arrow is just long enough for me. And if the arrow is too long, it doesn't really matter. You can still shoot it. It's perfectly safe. But if the arrow is too short, you can pull it past the bow and actually shoot yourself in the hand. One of the most common archery injuries for people who are using arrows too short. So good luck, be safe, enjoy your archery, and you can visit mountainsongexpeditions.com to learn about our offerings of archery training.